Hello everybody. Today we are gonna do something different. It has nothing to do really with security. So please just give me a notice if like the audio works great, and then we can head right into the stream today. So I'm here today with Gynvael from a different channel that you probably or hopefully should know. And together we have done a game development challenge. Actually, Gynvael is doing these challenges quite frequently, and I really wanted to join because I thought it's like a really cool thing to motivate people to learn something new and do some game development. And yeah, so we joined forces together to do a small game development challenge. And today we want to go over the results and share with you who are the winners and have a look at the awesome games that were created. So maybe you can introduce yourself as well, Gynvael?
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Gynvael, and well, I guess I'm both interested as Life Overflow is in security, and apart from that I always wanted to be a game developer, but since I guess I cannot be a game developer right now because, you know, security calls, then I'm doing these game competitions. So that's basically it. This is, I think, the fifth one, or which I've made in this series, and it's actually getting better and better.
Okay, sorry, people were writing echo, but I think I fixed it. I think it was because I had the camera audio in as well as my microphone audio in at the same time. Is it now fixed? Sorry. My voice is double. Yeah, okay, so it was my mistake. Is Gynvael's voice fine? Is that coming through
does
well?
It work?
Okay, well. So this is the first time we do like this dual stream setup, so this is all pretty janky, and hope we don't have too many issues beyond this now. Okay, so let me quickly introduce the game challenge, what were like the rules and when did this start and all the stuff around it. And you might already notice this weird overlay around us here because it has something to do with the challenge. So I'm disabling the chat here for a second. So at the end of December in 2018, of course, we announced the Gynvael's Winter Game Dev Challenge. And so we joined forces together and to have people develop games as a challenge. And we were giving certain constraints, certain rules about what the games must entail. Constraints are always very interesting because constraints help to drive creativity. We are giving clear guidance to what technology should be used to develop these games, and also certain game mechanics kind of constraints, I guess, as well on top of that. And so let's just quickly go over the constraints, because understanding the constraints is important to then later be able to kind of see and judge the games that were created based on those constraints. So the game must be an unrealistic hacking simulator, and the setting was kind of like that you have space marines exploring an abandoned space station, and you are a hacker that is helping out and help the squad to do whatever. That was like the rough outline, but you will see, people were taking this quite literally, others were more creative with that. That is just, kind of like a rough outline of everything. Thus, I guess a lot of games might look quite similar because just of this story bit. And then we were telling people that the technology they should use should be a client-side web technology that runs just like on a modern, up-to-date Chrome. And this means, of course, that people can develop games in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, WebAssembly, and all that stuff. And so it was maybe, we got a lot of messages from people in their READMEs from their games that this was the first time that they did JavaScript, or haven't done JavaScript in a while, or haven't done web game development at all. So that's the perfect thing, actually, for having challenges like this that allow you to explore new technologies and play around. The game should be in 1080p, but there was a small twist to this game, and this was this overlay that you were seeing at the beginning. So you can see it here. It's an overlay that Gynvael commissioned, and every game must use this. So the idea was to create this illusion of having two screens in this game, and the game developers had to come up with game mechanics that make use of having these two different screens. And so every game you will obviously will have this overlay, as you will see. And this created some, interesting game mechanics. Yeah, people didn't have a lot of time to develop those games. The deadline was end of January, and this blog post went up at the end of December. So basically, there was only 1 month that you had time. But luckily, the size of the game was also limited, so people couldn't go too crazy. You only had 128 kilobytes that you could use for the game. So the size limit, of course, also tells you already you don't need to go too crazy, I guess. Otherwise, all the other things that are listed here are mostly how to submit the game, and so that's not quite that important for our for our showcasing now. But I guess nice to show you what is in for the winners now. Because we were joining forces, we were able to up the reward money. We both pitched in. So the first place will get $250, and then you can see it here. We have we were able to have up to the 6th spot an award. And then we also have a couple of honorary mentions that we thought, okay, they didn't quite make the top 6, but they were in some way special still and deserve some additional reward. And so we are giving out a couple of these as well. And our plan now is that we go through the top 6 in reverse. We start with the with the 6th place, and then go up to the 1st place to see the winner. And after we have crowned the winner, we will then talk a little bit about the honorable mentions and showcase them as well. Maybe, Gynvael, do you want to say something about how the games were judged? What decided who would get, first spot?
Yeah, so basically, well, the overall quality of the game was what we were looking for. That's one thing, and the other thing which turned out was super important was basically, did we really like the game? Was it fun to play? So the gameplay itself. That was the main stuff. We didn't look at the code quality at all. So even if your code quality wasn't great, that's fine. I mean, there is a size limit, so you obviously cannot use style guides because you will run out of space really, really fast. So that's kind of given. And I guess these were the main criteria, basically. Was it fun to play? The overall feeling? Did it have, was there cool music, cool graphics, and so on?
Yeah. So I guess you see there's not like a clear scoring chart how games have to be performed, and I personally think that's also good in terms of creativity, because if people see I need to fulfill these things to get certain points to win, that takes away from the creative freedom. And so we just mainly wanted to have fun games. Games are supposed to be fun and not fulfill certain checklists. So that was basically very subjective for us, of course. But yeah, I think what Gynvael will agree with me on, when we actually sat together, like we ranked the games on our own and then came together and talked about how we wanted to finalize the ranking. And we were actually surprisingly agreeing very closely with how we rank them. So I think even if it's subjective, I feel like there's certain substance to it, just because both of us shared a lot of similar views on them.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing to add is that the games were really good. There were a lot of games submitted this round. A couple of more than last time. We had, 25 games to go through, right? And basically, it was super hard to judge them. That's my opinion. What do you think, Live?
Yeah. It also kind of hurts to rank them, because that every one of them, sat down and spent so much time on developing something, maybe even learn something new in the process. It was hard for them and they spent a lot of hours, and now you gotta rank them, so that hurts. But all of them really deserve the attention, and you have a look at them as well. And if you look here in the description of the live stream, as well as at the bottom of the live stream, you see a URL that will go to this blog post, and you will find there a link to all the game submissions. The direct link for this is this here. sorry, GWGC 2018 Gynvael.tv, and when you go there, you will find all the submissions. You can download them and play them yourself, and you totally should. And the great thing, of course, it's JavaScript. There's source code available, and if you are curious how a certain game was implemented or how it was done, I encourage you to, of course, also look in the sources and learn from that as well and get inspired maybe as well. Do you have anything else to add, or should we head into the sixth spot?
No, I think we should get started.
Yeah, otherwise it will already take a while. Okay, so let me get VLC set up. So we will run now from the sixth spot down to the first one, and we are gonna play we're gonna play the footage of that was me playing certain games in the background, and yeah. So let me. Okay, so this was the 6 games. This. I need to get my notes. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this game was created by. Oh, here it starts. We were just talking about the difficult names. This game is from Arenam and Pig Cow Hybrid, I guess.
And Ice Deathblade. Don't forget Ice Deathblade.
Oh, right. 3 Gamernism, Pig Cow Hybrid, and Ice Deathblade. And the game is called Init Player 1. And as you can see, the setup here in this case, how they were using the game screen setup that they had. They were using the top right as kind of tell the story visually, what is going on. And on the left side, you had like a console where you were giving instructions. Now, this was actually between us two a little bit of a controversial ranking because, no, it's not controversial, but I really like this game a lot, so I was arguing with Gynvael a little bit here. So what I particularly liked a lot about this game was that it was kind of like a multiple choice path game. You were the Space Marine, and you were able to, you can see it here, they're always after each, event or enemy you had different choices where you go next, A, B, C, D. And I was actually, why this game was so fun to me was that, it made me write down the different choices on like a piece of paper. Here you can if it's like focusing, I was like writing down the different paths and thinking about what is like the most efficient one. And this game had 2 stages. So in the beginning, you were going down these different decisions. So I guess I can pause it. So here, for example, I can check the locations, and it shows you that you can, that there are 3 available rooms, and you can either fight against an enemy or you can like explore 2 different rooms. And so it was just fun to replay the game multiple times and go down those different paths. And all of these rooms might give you certain hints that will help you in the second stage of the game. Now, I did have a special situation marked here as well that I quickly skipped towards, which was kind of a little bit the frustrating part. The balancing was a little bit difficult, that it was a bit random, those attacks, in terms of how much damage you do and how much damage the enemy does. And so sometimes it could get quite frustrating that you were so at like the last end boss and you were just barely making it. I just tried to find here. So wait, let me quickly remove, like this. So this in the bottom right is my live reaction from when I was playing this game, and this happened like after like the dozens or so playthrough. Again, I was crushed by the last person, and you see me then here going in the console and being sick of it, and checking out the sources and change my lives again to be able to complete this. So this was a little bit of the criticism, I guess, from my side to this game. But either way, I had fun like with the different choices. And then in the end, I guess I can show you, yeah. So once you completed that part, you were going in the second part of the game where you had this timer, and now you had to like a hacking part, and you can see here that you are connecting to a certain IP, and you had to specify a certain port, and all of these things were hints that you collected throughout the different story steps before. And so there was like one event that gave you the port 1337. I guess I mistyped. Oh yeah, I mistyped the IP here. And then there was like an XOR logic. You could discover programs along your way that would help you. Yeah, that was basically the sixth game. Do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I basically fully agree with everything you said, right? So the one thing to note here is that when you look at all the games, right, this game probably wasn't the best in the visual aspect. Neither was it an audio aspect. I actually have noted that it's beeped one time in the audio aspect. But I also noted that it was surprisingly fun to play. Like, even, that the graphics aren't amazing. Maybe I would choose a different font. Maybe I would go a little harder on the art style. You actually had 125 kilobytes. You had a lot of space to put in art. So, but on the other hand, the gameplay, it was fun. I fully agree with you. So I think it's a worthy sixth place. So congratulations, basically, to the creators.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, congratulations again. Game. Oh, guess these names. Do you want to try to pronounce it?
Okay. So let me try. Gamer Nissan, Pig Cow Hybrid, and Ice Deathblade. Congratulations for making Init Player 1 and scoring the sixth place in Gynvael's Winter GameDev Challenge.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, then let's move on to the fifth place. Yeah, so this place, as you can see at the top right, there's like a console, and in this case, this game, the big screen is like the main kind of game screen. And at the bottom of that screen, you see 4 Marines. I'm not sure why I refreshed this game. This was the first playthrough of mine. Let's go forward a bit. Okay, so there's sound. You hear a lot of explosions. I leave that in for a moment, but we'll mute it in a second. Yeah. So as you can see, you are controlling this character at the top, and your Marines, your friends, or your squad are at the bottom, and they are blocked at a door. And you have to now go to these terminals, and if you notice, when you go there, you can press E, and now the terminal on the top right updated, and now you have to quickly solve it. In this case, you had to complete a calculation. Now, this was my first playthrough. I was very distracted, and you can see the explosions slowly coming in. I turn on the audio again really quick. So this explosion just killed one of our team members. And yeah, so it was kind of like a time game where like slowly the explosion was moving in and killing you. You lost. So what you had to do is basically you had to quickly always run up to these terminals, hack them. So I'm here now doing this calculation. I got the correct answer. The door opened, and now I need to move on to the next section of this game. Now, there are a couple of things to say about. First of all, the controls were very janky. They were kind of weird and awkward and difficult to control. Sometimes your guy was like drifting. Sometimes the direction stuff was weird. It was like really awkward to control, to be honest with you. In my imagination, at some point, here I died. Touched the explosions. In my imaginations, it was kind of like, okay, you are a space marine, you are kind of in weird kind of a gravity situation. And so that's kind of how I explained it. But once you got the controls down, you could kind of finally kind of learn your way around these kind of issues. At some point, this jumping part actually became really cool. And for example, I think in this section you see it. So this is another terminal, and this was then the hacking here was playing Hangman. Let me try to find. Okay, so clearly here I didn't succeed. Let's see. Okay. Let's quickly watch this part here because this is. Oh no, sorry, that's the first one. Okay. So okay, so here you can see kind of like a little bit of the okay, so for example, here you need to backtrack now a little bit and you need to chain these two jumps together, but you have to go to the right and you can't jump to the right because there's like a ceiling and you get like blocked. So actually there was quite a bit of skill with the jumping. You had to like, and it took me a while to figure it out. So let me.
Yeah, it took me a while as well.
Yeah, but there were quite some jump tricks basically that you had to do to traverse, and that was actually, you know, so I think was it here? No. Let's see if I find it quickly. Yeah, so you had to like bounce there and then time it correctly to bounce then to the right and stuff. So you can see this was quite a skilled thing, and even though the controls were kind of janky, it did work out. It was challenging, and once you got through that frustration part, it was really fun. The only suggestions I kind of had was that the explosions were coming in like as a straight wall, and basically once it reaches your marines, it would kill you as well because you often had to backtrack a little bit. So it would have been kind of cooler if it was maybe like a diagonal where it could kill your marines first, but you still had the time to like backtrack a little bit and jump around. Yeah. Do you have anything to say about this game?
Yeah, so I basically like, as usual, I will be repeating this over and over today. I agree with what you said. The controls were broken in this game in the way that it took me actually a while to figure out that I cannot hold the jump up key. I have to let it go after pressing 1 so I can maneuver my my hero around, right? After that, I actually admit I had to reverse engineer the game quite a lot to learn how the hangman works, because I tried to enter the whole phrases, but it turned out that you entered basically letters and not the whole phrases. After that, I got kind of like this vibe from Out of This World game, or Another World, as it's called in EU, where there is like your hero going upstairs, and then on the bottom of the screen you see some other folks also waiting for you to let them basically proceed to the next location. I really like that, and I also like looking from the I guess perspective of what kind of games folks made, right? This was a quite unique game. I think it was the only one scrolling, jumping platform game in the other games we had, and it was pretty well made at that when it comes to the graphics. The graphic art style was pretty nice, and I liked it. There were obviously some things to improve, but that's always the case on compos. You have only like on game competitions, right? You have only a month to basically prepare everything, and you're working usually on your own. But still, I think it's a pretty worthy 5th place. I had a lot of fun playing with it after I finally figured out the controls. So yeah, there we have it.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Congratulations. Oh yeah, the author of this game is called Arenam, sorry, and this game is called Space Without X.
Yeah, congrats.
So check it out. You find it, of course, on this website that is like linked at the bottom in the description, and you can play and try it yourself. Then let's move on to the 4th game, to the 4th place. So this game is by Kevin Fitch, and the game is called Conway Has Life. You can already see the intro sequence is kind of playing. You get a little bit of story, you get kind of the vibe, and you can like see here how your ship is approaching the station Conway. So let me skip maybe a bit forward. Yeah, so you are now like heading into the station, and then there were different puzzles. You were traversing from yeah, you see here like the animations. There was like a story and everything. So that was like a nice intro to the game. Let's see. Okay, and then it started. Okay. There were multiple doors that you had to go through, and then the first doors that were there were related to Conway's Game of Life, and so these were kind of like a little bit of challenges. Basically, you get like a pattern, and you need to get that pattern right. The execution of the idea was good, but the execution was a little bit unfortunate in terms of like the difficulty, because in the first levels you were just like basically copying the patterns, and then you realize it's like an alternating thing. And oh wait, okay, I'm explaining this terribly. Let me try one. So at the top left of this level, you see like 0 of 5. So this is a Conway Game of Life field, and you enter, your population or whatever it's called, your cells, and then you run the game for 5 steps. And the door only opens if the final state of the game after the 5 cycles or 5 generation steps has what is shown here in this failure screen. And so now you need to figure out what is kind of like the starting generation that after 5 generations will have exactly that pattern. And the first levels were, and it was so confusing because the first levels were just like either alternating patterns or stationary patterns that wouldn't do anything. You were just putting in the same stuff again. And then later it was like an alternating pattern, and you had to put in the one, and then it ended in the other one. And so the idea was great, but unfortunately it didn't like actually get to very difficult puzzles. They were quite easy. The hardest one was, I guess, the glider level. I guess this shows it the best. Let me pause here. So on the arrow screen of that glider level, I pause here in a second. So it ran for 12 generations, and you can see here the axis. Here the glider has to be after 12 steps of life. And I think this was my first try ever, and I just thought, okay, it's probably like in the corner, you put the glider here, it runs for 12 things, and I got it. So I wish that it was more of a play on that aspect. But what this game made so exceptional was that this wasn't the only minigame. This was just the start. And after the Conway Game of Life door challenges, you had another minigame where you were controlling. By the way, it's like turning blue because I'm like double clicking and accidentally highlighting like the browser screen or whatever. You had this kind of like this tank game where you were shooting missiles, and you had to hit the ball at the end, and you can see that the terrain is destructible. And so there were multiple levels like this, not particularly challenging. It just took time to adjust and stuff like this, but it was like another minigame.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you know where the name of that minigames come from, like gorilla.bass?
Gorilla.bass?
Yeah.
No clue. Oh, over there. No, I have no idea.
Okay, so actually, when you installed Microsoft DOS back in the days, right, it came with a basic interpreter, with QBasic interpreter, and one of the programs was called Gorilla.bass, and this minigame is basically almost a perfect re-implementation of that game.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, that's a nice touch that just adds for me to it even more. Awesome. Yeah, so another implemented minigame here that was fun. Yeah, and then there was another minigame which was a regular, what is it called? I don't even know. Does it have a certain name?
It's usually Arkanoid.
Okay. Yeah. Another minigame, also, not particularly hard or anything, but another minigame that's implemented for to like hack the doors and get the doors open basically, and help your squad to move through the space station. And then after that there was a third game, and it is called Kirby Space Program. And for me personally, that was kind of like the main mind-blowing part. You were going through all these different mini games, and then this game appeared, which is just like a solar system kind of thing, where different objects are in a gravity field of the gravity source in the middle. They are just like going on in their orbit, and you have like a spaceship that is attracted to that gravity field, and you are also in an orbit, and you control the how many days are executed, and certain acceleration, I guess, and you could also aim further in or further out. And your goal was to basically collect or hit these different objects in the orbit. And you can see like how the gravity is like, going. Oh, there I just collected one. Perfect. And I thought, this is great. Like, this could have almost been like a game in itself. Just the visuals and how it was executed. That just was like awesome. Now, there's one funny story I also pointed out here a certain time. Did I? Maybe I find it. So I had to play it again. And the reason for that was, here I have my frustration again. So I was playing and I was kind of like trying to get these too badly. And it's really difficult because you need to, think about where the orbits will be at that moment and where your object will be from the gravity, predicting and kind of lining up your object. You can see like I was getting frustrated chasing these, trying to collect these objects. And then I got a bit too greedy. And what happened then, you see I'm already slinging around from the gravity. And then I was just like slinging off. And now you see like, crap. My reaction here. So I still saw like dots. I knew that my ship was on the way, was able to come back again. So it came back, it recovered. But I was not able, it was aiming so perfectly into the middle with its trajectory, I guess. And I tried to get it in a nice orbit again. But it just gravity slingshotted away. And I was like, oh no, this didn't just happen. And I tried to, get the speed of the simulation up again, trying to see if it will recover at some point again. And I was just like, oh no. And I had to play again. But, that was just, I screwed up. I did not predict the gravity well enough, I guess. And so I had to replay the game again, and then I was a bit more careful with my with the traveling. Yeah. What was your experience with this?
I admit I cheated in that level. I basically looked up how do I just go to the next level because it took me a while and I still didn't collect all of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I played this for quite a long time, and you can tell I got really frustrated at some point because of that. But multiple different mini games implemented, and having this one felt like a gem at the end, like a really nice, just like unique, like nobody implemented such a gravity. I mean, it's physics-wise kind of like I guess basic simulation kind of thing, but using it as a game here, trying to collect, it was just a nice surprise. It was unique and interesting, and I had this fun experience myself with like this accidental gravity slingshot, and I screwed up myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, when I was going through this game, I started with a game of life, right? And I basically got through, the beginning with the starting levels, and I thought yeah, this is quite cute actually. Game of life, that's a good idea for a mini game in a game where you're actually making an unrealistic hacking simulator. Game of life, a classic, right? And then I went to the glider level. I beat it, and I was thinking okay, bring the real stuff in. And I was kind of disappointed that it was the end of the Game of Life levels. But then we moved to Gorilla, which is scorched tanks or worms game basically. So I was like, okay, well, the person implemented a second game, which is not really super trivial to make. It's easy, but it's not super trivial. So I was quite impressed. And then I moved to the Arcanine, and I was like, wow, okay, this is getting better and better. And at the end, with the Kirby Space Program, basically like obviously related to the kerbal space program. I was like, okay, like this is like the icing on the cake. This is just amazing. So I really like it. I think this is a worthy fourth place. Really well done. I also liked the vector animation basically done. I already mentioned today the Another World game, which also featured vector animation. I kind of got this vibe here as well. So a really cool game. I really enjoyed it. Kevin Dunn has done a really good work on this.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations, Kevin. Awesome. Okay, then let's move to the top 3 and the place 3. So this was one of the games which has we kind of got like similar kind of games because of course we wanted an unrealistic hacking simulator. So one of the obvious I guess things to do is like a console kind of interface, terminal. But this game did it, executed it very very well. So the setup was this way that you could like put a chat like an IRC chat at the basically at the top right, and that chat was you are the hacker. You were communicating with the team that was exploring station, and so you were having there the as a form of communication, and on the left you basically had your machine with like a terminal. And yeah, and then basically it was kind of like a puzzle game, an exploration game. There was like story happening. So you can tell you that here in the story you see here, they are asking you, are you there? We decided to dock into the station and check if there are alive humans. And then you had to respond with, in the chat with yeah. And then the story was continuing, and they asked you for something. They reached like, I don't know, were blocked by something, or you had to like open a door, or and then you needed to figure this out. And here I'm just typing help, and you can see like the different commands available, and it teaches you you get these objectives. Your objective is to set the autopilot to manual. Yeah, and then you were just like playing the game. Now it's a nice story. I don't want to actually spoil it like too much. You should just experience, games like this don't necessarily have a lot of replayability because it's like the story, and you play the story, and then that's like your experience. So and it's fun to try to figure out what you have to do, and look around and explore these systems. But yeah, let me see if do you have anything particular like a step that stood out for you?
I guess like one thing to point out here is that the terminal was implemented really in an amazing way, right? If there were multiple submissions, like almost half of the submissions had a terminal one way or the other. That's a pretty obvious idea when you're thinking about an unrealistic hacking simulator, right? We usually, like as hackers, like we like to use the terminal, so a terminal is a given basically. But you can do the terminal in like a lazy way, and you can do it this way. And I really liked the implementation of the terminal here. So that's one thing. The other thing which got me really hooked up in the game, which you already mentioned, is the chat. Now, the chat was, it was, I think, one of the 3 or 4 games which again implemented the chat. But here, the chat was like so immersive. You could actually like think that these are like folks waiting for you, and you actually have to reply, as Life Overflow mentioned already, to them. That was really well executed, really well done. Also, the hacking aspect of it, it was supposed to be an unrealistic hacking simulator, obviously, so I wouldn't expect any buffer overflows and such. But it was just fun to basically, connect to all the various servers, explore them, then like interact with them. So it was overall a really well executed game. I basically marked that the gameplay for me was 10 out of 10. And I guess, I don't know, like I would say one thing to the offer to Retsu, who created this game. Basically, add some more content, add some music, add some sound, and put this on Steam, because this game is amazing.
Well, that is an amazing compliment. Yeah,
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
yeah, I also have a small kind of. Oh wait, let me point out something first. What I also liked is that it was kind of like it started to implement some windows. It didn't use them too much, but it did come in useful a little bit. For example, it implemented here a binary decoder and a network card, which allowed you to switch. Now finding how where or when I use this, I guess here I'm using the binary decoder. So certain files might have like binary inside, and you could like use that to decode. And there was a nice aspect because a lot of games implemented, a command line interface basically, but this was like going a bit closer to simulate like an actual computer where maybe you have graphical tools available as well. And one thing that kind of like was a little bit irritating with some other games, they were, for example, implementing like Caesar Cipher or ROT13 or something like this, or you needed to decode something. And that usually meant that you had to like Google another site. Now, maybe that was the game's intention that you like go outside and out of the game and explore that and try to decode it yourself. But this game just like directly offered you a binary decode as like a program on this computer that you could use to do that, which I really liked. And then I have one small funny story here in this one as well. I'm removing ours again to see the reactions. So because it is so immersive, for me it felt like an actual console at some point. But there's one thing you shouldn't do, and which I often do in console applications, and that is it's like very common that I press Control R to start searching for commands in your history. And at some point, I kind of was like tired to type something, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do Control R to search for past commands. And what happened is that Control R is like a hotkey in the browser. Let's see. I hope I got the time here correct. Yeah. So here I press Control R, try to search. and I was pretty far in the game at this point basically, and I just refreshed and the tab, and I had to restart. Here you can see the network card program, and how I guess that is nice to see the start here of the.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, it's like same if you press Control W in a browser, right? You would expect just to remove one word, but you actually close the tab. So I fully understand your pain.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a really fun, great game, and definitely deserves the third spot. Cool. Yeah. So, sorry, I forget. The author was Retsu, and the game was called Hacksaw 2000. Congrats.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, so then let's move on to the second place. This game is from LailaLos, and this game is called SpaceHacker3000. So you can see it kind of starts off like with like a terminal interface, but really nice graphics already. Like at the top right, some nice just low pixel kind of graphic animations. It looks really nice. It kind of reminded me of oh no, I forgot the name. Papers, Please kind of style, like with the speaking or something. Yeah. Let's wait a moment until like this game is booting up, and suddenly, I thought it's not a terminal game. Suddenly, it's booting like Windows, and it had these animations how the Marines that were just spawning in, and you see the lifeline of them. And you had suddenly this very beautiful game. And there were actually some quite interesting game mechanics. And so let's just talk about them. So this is my first playthrough of the game. I just like try to figure out how this game works. And basically you always have these single stages. So now we go to the next one. So we find the door again, and we can use the door control program here. And we need to match the pattern. But this was, for example, the first time I realized, oh, wait, the red dot was in a different area of the door, and so now you had to, in your mind, rotate this thing as well. So now suddenly,
yeah, but was mind bending and painful.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then suddenly I reached the first enemy. Now they are shooting, and you have this time pressure to make sure that your Marines are not dying. And I guess with the next, when another shows one, turrets, they are called turrets. Then the other enemy are drones. So there are 2 drones, and if you carefully look at them, they have like a blue and red pattern on them. Now, all 3 blue means you control that drone. And I at first wasn't sure what to do. I tried to like aim shooting one guy at the other, but that didn't work. So it took me a little bit to figure out how to beat them, but I very quickly figured out I need to fly into each other to, destroy them. Now, that took so long that half of the Space Marines died. Now, these turrets have this blinking light on their antenna, and it always restarts when it's black, and it's just showing you a pattern that you have to enter, with these colors. And if you do it correctly, then you basically like despawn or destroy or whatever, teleport away the turret. I don't know what happened. And yeah, you see more doors. And your goal is it to, and then you collect always these like gems and coins, and like gems at the top right, you see the gem score. And your goal is, I think it was to get like 100 gems. But let's wait here for a moment, because this game just takes a little twist in a moment that was really another surprise, what made this game so great. Oh, look who appeared! Hey, I see you are trying to hack my space station. Wait a minute. Defense protocol active. All intruders must die. And I was like confused. Okay, wait, Clippy? Okay, what's happening? And suddenly, Clippy started to get red eyes and shoots lasers at my cursor. Connection.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was just like great. It totally blew me away.
Yeah, and so basically this introduced like another aspect of this game where you had like Clippy like shooting lasers at your cursor, and it's not like you get game over through that, but it's annoying because you have to respawn when it happens. And now in this case you only have a door, so it isn't too bad. But as soon as things are shooting at you, now you have like this in this time moment. If you now get shot, you lose obviously time where your Marines still take damage. And obviously you now had to like click these patterns. And then what is this? Not only lasers, this Clippy plants like bombs around, or mines around the screen. And now you need to like navigate with your mouse around, and you need to be just careful with that. And that was just like a little bit of sound effects as well.
And it's really worth mentioning that the game was really well balanced. I mean, it was hard, especially when Clippy shows up and starts like planting mines all around and shooting lasers left, right, and center, right? But it's still beatable. It was like somebody actually took time, the author actually took time to make sure the game is on the level of being hard, but still beatable. So I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, and you need to pay a lot of things attention, you need to make sure you don't get hit by Clippy. And now this is, for example, a stressful situation. I was looking to the right because I saw that there are these bots shooting at me, and I completely missed Clippy, and Clippy killed my cursor, and I lost more time getting my Marines attacked. And now I need to like control these and try to, evade the mines at the same time. Now, there's one more Clippy animation. Yeah, I was just running into a mine again. They are even a turret and drones are shooting at me, and I need to wait again. And you can see I'm slowly like dying here. Only one Marine left. Yeah. So let's just see if Clippy does his other thing in a moment. Shooting lasers again. Yeah, let's just fast forward a little bit here. Oh yeah, okay, so at some point, suddenly, I was like doing another door, suddenly Clippy transforms into this saw blade and is just chasing you as well. And there was another like, what just happened? Yeah, as you can tell, great graphics, very well balanced, a lot of stuff you need to pay attention to using both screens. There was information on one screen that you had to use this information on the other screen. There were threats on both screens you needed to deal with. the Marines needed to quickly dealt with that they don't get shot, and at the same time you need to pay attention that your cursor doesn't get killed by Clippy. It was like a fun thing to have like this old Windows style computer interface for the hacking aspect, basically. Yeah, it was just, that was a mind-blowing game for me.
Yeah, fully agreed. Like, really well done, and like, it was really close to being the first place. We had quite a long discussion basically to how to sort out the first 3 games, but I mean, this game is amazing in its own right. So LailaLos, amazing job, well done.
Yeah, definitely. And again, with the link at the, I hit it. With that link at the bottom of the screen, you find the blog, and then you find the link to all the games as well as there. And you definitely should experience and play and try it yourself. It's actually really fun. Okay, that means we are moving on to the first place. Is there anything special I should introduce it with, or I just drop in the video and we start going?
I guess let's drop in the video.
Okay, there you go. So this game is called Sigma 18 by Christoph Yamrosch.
This is Commander of Sierra 23,
Yep.
Alex Decker speaking. Sir,
As
2
Bayer
of our
basically
engines are damaged.
You spelled it
Emergency
correctly.
landing at Sigma 18. Approaching DSO.
I'm not sure if you hear the audio. The audio is playing right now.
We are too far on the left. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
So this is the start of the game.
What is the status?
Spaceship wrecked during landing. We cannot use it to get out from here anymore. We are at Sigma 18 space station. There seems to be not a soul in the whole location.
Okay, so this was the start of the game, right? You're opening it up, and the story between you, the hacker, and the commander of your Space Marine squad is kind of starting to unfold. And this game is starting up with the map at the top right, and they are speaking with each other. And that was like an amazing creative use of the technologies that the browser offers. Like, that was just really, really clever, and just deserves to be pointed out in general, that this was such a great idea. It made this game really, really immersive. You really felt like there are 2 teams chatting over the radio. There were certain sound effects, for the radio exchange, basically. And they were using the text-to-speech API from Chrome. So what you could use for accessibility reasons, or this feature for text-to-speech was used here to implement this communication between the squad on the spaceship and you, the hacker. That was just, immediately really mind-blowing. And you can see, the animations, like the flickering of the map as well, that just adds a nice touch. It is another like terminal hacking game, which was a fairly common, I guess, trope. But you saw the flicker again there. Just like adds, to the atmosphere of playing this game. But you can also tell that the interface was done really nicely. You see, like the green on black standard thing was just executed very well. Yeah, what do you want to say something about it?
Yeah, basically what I really loved about this game is the story. It's basically like the space thriller where you're actually helping folks which are stuck on the space station, and they're exploring it, and it turns out that there are like some, I'm not going to spoil too much, but there are some enemies which are kind of hostile towards you. There is blackout on part of a space station, and you need to deal with it in a smart way. You have to control the power system, you have to control some other stuff. You have to basically, there was also animation when entering a room, and like suddenly enemies just start shooting at you, and you have to quickly help your Marines by closing the doors. And then after some playing, you have to figure out how to deal with the enemies, because there was quite a lot of them. So this game was really well executed. The terminal was maybe not colorful like it was on the third place, right? But it was amazingly executed. I really enjoyed the green on black classical combination here, but again, really well executed. The minimap on the right, that was incredibly well done. The animations, easy, simple, but still added to the gameplay. yeah, even at the end, like the outro itself, there was this radar animation. That was really cool. So I enjoyed it quite a lot playing this game. And again, as Life Overflow said, like the text-to-speech engine, it wasn't the first game I saw it in, but still, it was a really good choice to use it here. It added to the immersion quite a lot. So really well done, Krzysztof. It was like Sigma 18 is one of my favorite game basically of this competition. So well done, well played.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only agree. It was really fun exploring the space station, hearing the story about it, and reading all the different things. There were, like Gynvael said, a lot of different aspects with the power, those enemies, some management, the power management at play as well. I tried to find even with the shooting, there was like another twist. Some point later in the game as well. I'm just fast forwarding here so you can kind of like see visually the map kind of expanding. But yeah, it was very well done.
The game was quite long as that too. So this is another game. Like, yeah, just add some more content, put it on Steam for a buck or two or a couple, and it's totally worth playing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, or use that kind of as an engine and build more kind of games like those. It's great. Maybe also the hacking parts, like the challenges themselves. There was one in particular with like authentication, where you am I spoiling not too much? But it was not just connect to this machine, get this file, or execute this program exploit. There were like a little bit of thinking. You were like using one tool to defeat like the authentication of something else, and it was all just like very good ideas, a lot of different small ideas that just like added to an overall really great fun experience. And yeah, you should also play it. It's called Sigma 18 by Christoph Yamrosh. Yeah, so congratulations.
Yeah, congrats, well done.
So you find the games on GEWGC 2018 Gynvael.tv, and you should play them. And you find them all here. However, now these were our top 6. I guess maybe a quick recap. I didn't prepare like a screen for that. No. Okay, like yeah. On place 6 is In It Player 1. By Gamerism, Pig Cow Hybrid, and Ice Death Blade. On place 5 is Space Without X by Arenam. On place 4 is Conway Has Life, CCC by Kevin Fitch. On place 3 we have Hacksaw 2000 by Retsu. On place 2 we have SpaceHacker3000 by LailaLos. And on the first spot we have Sigma 18 by Christoph Yamrosh. And of course, check out all the games. Now, these were their positions. As you can, just as a quick reminder, we had certain awards for them as well. And we will we will reach out to them, of course. Now, beyond the top 6, we have a couple of honorary awards that we want to give out to certain games that didn't quite make the top 6, but that we wanted to just like honor as well. As you can tell, we didn't like specify how many that would be. That would just be if we felt like we wanted to really award something just for another exceptional game. We would just wanted to keep that open as a possibility, and so we have 4 honorable mentions that we would want to go over next. Do you have anything to say about before we head there?
No, that's basically it. So let's jump into honorable mentions.
Perfect. Okay, so honorable mention number 1 is called Null's Space by, now we have the weird names, Oggenkatic or something like that.
Yeah, my apologies. I cannot pronounce the name either. So yeah.
So what's to say about this game? This is another, let me skip a little bit into the game. So you had another like console game, like a console to the left. And at the top right, you also have a game, a map interface, or like where the story is playing out. In some way similar to the first place, but you can tell, the first place did execute it a little bit nicer. But this game made some things very well, and that's why we wanted to have it as an honorable mention as well. Do you want to say something about the graphics part?
Yeah, so basically the graphics part was a cool idea, but it wasn't executed as well as the first place was, right? Because in the first place, I guess it was a little more readable, and here I guess you can polish it a little bit more. And this is what I was missing in this game: the idea to have vector animations, well, vector/bitmap animations of the Marines moving and like interacting with the environment was pretty cool, but there is so much more you could have done here. But this isn't the only thing which actually separates it from the top games in our choice. The other thing I wanted to point out was some mini games were really fun, and the other games weren't so fun. That's at least my impression. I enjoyed the Sudoku one. Most of the words typing I did, but then like there was a mini game about adding two numbers together really fast, and the numbers weren't trivial. Well, they weren't hard either, but if you have these many numbers just scrolling through the screen, it was pretty hard to actually get right. And that was more, I guess, annoying, I guess is the word, than fun. So yeah, like small stuff like this is basically what separated it.
Yeah. For example, here you see one of these, or one of the typical most used mini games here, where you had to quickly type in the words falling down, and if you don't do it fast enough, you get basically, you have basically health, and with each one you're losing a bit, and then you lose at some point. And I don't know. I'm obviously not the fastest typer, but I wouldn't say I'm the slowest one. But I had basically no chance to finish these things. Like I was way too slow. A small mistake and you are out of it. And I failed basically almost all of them. So that was really frustrating. And so in the end, I also had to resort to like now you can see one of the animations like up there right now. So just to point that out, here it switches to like another screen where they are walking in. I think the font choice, for example, was not the best one. I know like small things that just visually could have been better, but the animations and the story in itself is great, and so it had like a lot of nice things implemented, and that we felt like deserves an honorable mention. Yeah, cool. Then let's move to the second honorable mention, called Grand Hackster by Mateusz Morszczyzna.
Yeah. This is one of fun Polish names to pronounce. Mateusz Morszczyzna.
Yeah. So this game is called Grand Hackster. Let me skip a bit forward here. Okay. So there were like, I think, 2 games where hacking was basically like kind of like over the top, like done in the movies, where you just had to smash the keyboard, and the goal was just to like smash it like crazy. I think here I was still like trying to figure out what am I supposed to do. So I was just like hitting weirdly. But let me skip a bit further into the game. So at the top right, you see a labyrinth or maze, where you control one block here, and you are traversing through that maze, and you can collect certain things, and your goal is to find a certain item and bring it back. Now, what blocks you from doing that is that there are doors that you need to hack. With the hacking, this is where the smashing comes into play. Now, you can see on this keyboard to the left that if you go back a moment, you see that there are controls as well on the keyboard. So you were controlling two things. You were controlling the block or your squad or whatever that is traversing through the maze on the screen above, but you were also controlling the squares, this 3x3 grid above the keyboard. And so you were smashing on the keyboard, and at the same time, by pressing, I think it was Shift, you were then able to go into the control mode where you could move these things. And this created a kind of interesting mini game. So I'm here now at a blocked door. You can see it at the top of the map. And there are now these 3 fields with a lock icon. And you can see that that you can move the screen cursor around. And basically you need to move the screen cursor to these fields with the lock icon. And during that time, you are just smashing the keyboard until all of the 3 ones turn green. And if you leave that, slowly those grids turn red again over time. So they need to have over a certain level of green that they stay green. Otherwise, they become red again. So here I'm smashing again, it turns green, and I move on to the next one, smash again, turns green. But if you are too slow and it's like quite difficult, it took a bit to get like down the controls until you are very fast with that. Once you complete that, you the door opens and you can traverse further to the maze. One other twist was here that you can tell that in the keyboard certain characters are red and others are blue. So if you are smashing certain keys too often, they kind of like overheat and break or something like this. You can tell like that it's filling up these dots at the bottom right corner of the keys, and if they fill up too much, they break. And this was an aspect of the game I realized later, so you need to a bit strategize which keys you are smashing, because if you smash them too much, you destroy them, and at some point you don't have like any keys left anymore. So if I like forward, like at this stage of the game, I only had a few buttons left, and it was basically impossible to not break them at this point, and I had to like carefully plan which button I'm smashing and not. The graphics were great, I think. The minigame wasn't a fun idea like the smashing, and yeah, so that's why for me it deserved an honorable mention. What was your experience with it?
Yeah, I basically agree. I mean, the graphics and the art style here is quite amazing. If you could scroll back to the intro, for example, that was done procedurally without any pre-rendered animation, so that was quite amazing as well. And what basically made me not put this game as one of the top games is that in the end I didn't have as much fun playing it. I mean, it's great visually, it's like top-notch visually, totally, but keyboard mashing goes like only so far, right? Yeah, you could obviously explore the labyrinth, but in the end it was a game about mashing keyboards. So this is basically the one differentiator which basically puts this in honorable mentions and not on the one of the top games for me.
Yeah, cool. So that was Grand Hackster. Then let's move on to the third honorable mention. This one is called Low Case Infestation by Drakir, and here I turn on the sound really quick again for a bit. And I just let it play here for a moment, just so you can get a feeling for it. So the game was, it was more like, let's say a mini game. It was like one aspect of a game, and it was fun to play. It was kind of like interesting at first, and it was, I think, visually it was nice, and it had some nice music, and the game idea I think was kind of interesting. So basically at the top right you see these two signals running. One signal you had to match, the red one, and you control the green one. And you control the amplitude, the frequency, and what's the other one? Offset, or offset or something like that. And you had to match that exactly. And basically the story was that there were doors that were blocking your squad that is fighting aliens on the other screen. And to be able to hack open the door, you needed to like hack the radio connection of the door, basically, or something. And so you needed to match that quickly so that your squad will not be killed by the aliens. Now, we both had big issues with this game, and that was just because of the controls. That was a bit frustrating. So you see these sliders below the signal view, and with those you can control the frequency and amplitude and stuff like this. Now, I realized I can touch these with the mouse and control them, but Gynvael, for example, didn't realize that. But the intended way to play this was that you use num keys. And my keyboard doesn't have num keys. I don't own a keyboard with num keys. None. Here's like I have a couple of keyboards, but none have a num key. My laptops don't have num keys, so I couldn't really play the game. And what I then used is I used like a stream deck, like what the streamers use, where you can like, crap, I can't get it higher. Sorry, where you can like control, where you can program certain keys. And so I was programming a numpad on here, so I could like play the game with that. And Gynvael, how did you solve this issue?
Yeah, I have a keypad basically in my keyboard. I have a really large keyboard with basically a full keyboard plus some additional keys which I can program anyway. But that didn't really solve the issue. I just couldn't play this game with the default keyboard setting, with like, the default control scheme. I basically, after trying like 5 times and failing miserably at the game because I was confusing the keys, basically, I thought like it would be natural for me for these keys to like control this aspect, like for example the phase or the offset, how it's actually called in the game, this for the amplitude and so on. But it just didn't work for me. So in the end, I like went to the source code. I changed the keyboard scheme to the control scheme to basically the one of my liking. And after setting that, like first time I played it, I passed the game. So I'm not sure what the author actually was thinking about when choosing the default key bindings, but I would go a different way. Now, I guess one thing to mention here, you mentioned that the music, right? I believe this is one of the games which had music, which is like a lot more than you can say about most of the games. Most of the games didn't come with any music. There was a couple of like some nice ambient tunes, but most of the games just didn't have any music at all. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go in the same direction with music here, because the music was kinda like the atmosphere of the music was basically totally different from exploring the space station. The music more like went a little more into the classical piano tones than anything else, in my opinion. Nonetheless, really well executed game, and I totally see that it deserves the honorable mention.
Yeah, it was just unique. It was different. It was more relaxing kind of game, I guess, in that sense. And yeah, but that's why we wanted to have it as an honorable mention as well. And now we come to the last honorable mention, the last game that we will showcase today. And this one is called Space Saver by Thomas LailaLos. Yeah, as you can already tell, there was a story going on. There were like amazing graphic animations. And let's just wait a moment until like the game kind of starts off. Or I guess I skip through. Yeah. So basically, you're actually exploring a space station here. You are controlling this yellow marine, and you are walking around, and you have your squad there with you, and you are basically collecting these reports there. And there were some small like mini games that you had to also solve throughout the space station exploration. It basically had its own graphic style, I guess. I don't know how much we want to say about like the story or the details of the reports. I
guess we can. Yeah, we can skip the spoilers.
Yes. Yeah. But you were particularly liking this one, right? Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, but basically what I liked about it is I liked the story. And I liked that it didn't end after the first 5 minutes. You could play a little longer than that. There was a couple of rooms to explore, a couple of mini games to basically, practice hacking. Quite easy, simple mini games, but still very rare. What actually tipped the balance for me, and I know you liked it also, was at the end of the game when you collected all the reports and you went back to your spaceship. You could actually read the reports, and that was really cool.
Yeah, so there was a nice story, and that it's just that is gameplay. That adds just to the game design, that you collected all these reports and you didn't quite know what these reports are about, and you hear some about the story of the space station, and then the game is over, and then you, after the game screen, you just get a screen where you can just like go through the different reports and read them, what was basically going on at the space station. And that was just, I don't know, that was just such an important game design decision that just made a big difference. And overall, yeah, it's an exploration game, and so that was quite fun.
Yeah, we were basically also chatting that we are kind of missing the thread here. Most of the other games had an element that you either were playing against the time because the space station was supposed to just explode in a second, right? Or there were some hostile aliens, drones, or robots or whatever after you. But here you're just like, oh, fully lit space station. Yeah, just let's walk around like a walk in the park, basically. I was kind of missing the aspect, like the fear aspect here in this game.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So that was it for the different games. We will obviously, or I guess Gynvael also will contact the winners and the honorable mentions for their rewards. We will do that, take care of that over the upcoming days or weeks or whatever. Yeah, I would like to mention again, you should make sure to play these games as well, and I encourage you to check out the source code of them as well. Look at how they were implemented if you are curious how could somebody implement such a game in the browser. A lot of them, have nice source code provided with them as well. So, use them to learn a little bit and enjoy the games as well. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I guess it's like I fully sign under what you just said. Do play also the game which we didn't feature because we showed only 10 games. There were 25 games total, and the games were actually pretty cool, all of them. Do you have any funny stories about playing the games? I actually have one which I wanted to share. Is that for one game, the game didn't work as intended, in all honesty. So I actually spent like 25 minutes debugging the game and finding the bugs and fixing them so I can test it. And it was actually even debugging the games was quite fun in that case. I don't know if you have if you've done anything similar to one of the games.
Yeah, there was one game that was also another kind of like terminal hacking game, but it also had an interesting twist that it had multiple monitors that you of terminals that you had to control, and you had to solve like each single monitor. And there was a bug where when there was there were easy terminals and harder terminals to basically shut down, and you could basically just solve an easy one, and then it initiated the shutdown sequence as a timer. And what you could do while the timer's running, you switch to one of the hard terminals, and when the timer ran out, it shut down that hard terminal instead. So that was just kind of like a game-breaking bug to make everything easy, but that was clearly, replaced the game state of the terminal running right now and the timer hitting the shutdown of the current game thing that was running right now. Just a small little bug, I guess.
Yeah, that's speed running right there.
Yeah, getting the glitches to close them. Yeah. Most of the games you can play in the browser, I guess. Maybe some require more different kind of setup to play. I'm not sure.
So actually, you should be able to play all the games which are featured on the website, which is all of them, from a Chrome browser. It was basically a requirement for the authors of the games to make the game playable on the Chrome browser, the newest Chrome on newest Windows 10. We basically wanted to limit it to one platform just, to make it easy. And since we both, I use Chrome, so that's why we decided for it. another reason. And so that's one thing. The other thing, if you want to run them on your own computer, you might need to start an HTTP server for some of them. The easiest way is to just install Python and run python-m simple HTTP server, and that's it. You have an HTTP server running. So yeah, but apart from that, that's actually it. The games should work.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I only can mention again, this was a collaboration with Gynvael. It's Gynvael's Game Development Challenge. Yeah, he has done several of these in the past, and I believe is continuing to do so in the future once in a while. I was really happy that he allowed me to join for this one and participate and judge all these games. So if you are if you want to participate in such a game challenge in the future yourself as well, and want to use this as an opportunity to learn some new technologies and just participate in a small community of game developers, make sure to follow him on YouTube, as well as I guess Twitter is a good way to, and his blog to get the announcements for new development game dev challenges. And beyond that, he obviously is making great live streams about various IT security topics in English. This is his English channel, but also on Polish on his Polish channel. These are quite excellent as well, and you should obviously also subscribe to him.
Yeah. From my side also, thank you Live Overflow for helping me. I was actually really happy when Live Overflow came to me and said, "Hey, I want to help you," because I was super happy to dump just most of the stuff which is the hardest, judging the games, on him to basically be able to discuss it. It's always a struggle to, you get 25 amazing games and you have to stack rank them. So having another person to discuss this and help with also other parts of organizing the competition, that was amazing. So thank you very much, Live Overflow. And obviously I would like to thank every participant and everyone who tried to make the game, even if they didn't submit it in the end. Because it's pretty fun and it's a great learning opportunity, I think, and also the games which you sent in were quite amazing. We had a lot of fun testing, so thank you. And I guess the next competition will be around summer.
Sounds good. Yeah, also from me, thank you so much. I really enjoyed every single game. It was a blast to play them, and the most painful part was trying to rank them and having to exclude showcasing certain games. It was really a lot of work. I really tried to give every game the time it deserves. That meant for some games playing them for hours because they were that hard or frustrating or just that long, But yeah, I enjoyed every single one of them, and I appreciate that you put the time in developing them and sending them in. I guess, yeah, maybe also I feel sorry for that one team that kind of had a little bit of a internal struggle. I felt kind of bad for them having put so much time into this, and then it was a little agreement. If you are there listening, I'm still happy that you. Hopefully you can still, besides those issues, draw some positive from it, that you had fun developing itself. And sorry that you couldn't hand it in the end. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I will close the stream down if there's nothing else to talk about. And otherwise, stay tuned for, I guess, the summer for the next game dev challenge. And until then, maybe go through the games you saw here. Yeah. Thanks so much. See you another time. And thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.